Spot by PassionPoet. This is a space for intimacy, vulnerability, transparency. A place where we not only talk about eroticism and sex, but we'll also touch on topics that may make you a little vulnerable, a little exposed. However, this is a safe space where you can disrobe and get real. There is no judgment allowed here. So are you ready? Let's get wet. The Wett Spot is sponsored by Passionate Words Editing Services. At Passionate Words Editing Services, words are a writer's currency. We help you spend them wisely. For all your editing, proofreading, transcribing needs, follow at Passionate Words Editing on Instagram. That's at passionate.words.editing on Instagram, or on Facebook on facebook.com/passionatewordsediting. Let's help you spend your currency well. Follow Passionate Words on Instagram or Facebook now. In this segment, I want you to get comfortable as I read one of my pieces, because the words may move you, they may inspire you, who knows, they may even get you wet. So sit back and listen. Temptation. Eyes slowly slide sensually down smooth, silky skin. Fingers trace figure eights as you entice me, begging me to come closer. I want to touch you, want to make my sensual dreams lucid. You are bringing me to the brink of letting go, to the edge of reason, to the precipice of pleasure, and then slowly withdrawing your attention, playing with me repeatedly. You see, you are my temptress. I see the rise and fall of bumptious breasts, begging me to bring my bite to bear on bare flesh, wanting to feel the folds of feminine rolls firm within my grasp. You always think you're imperfect because you're not flimsy to the touch. But don't you know it is your formidable form that makes me lust late into the night? I want to trace teasing touches towards your treasure, yet deliberately skipping the pleasure of parting your nether lips with my tongue, teasing you as you tease me, bringing the temptation ever closer. But this is all still within my future plans, as you will not come close enough for me to hold. You keep teasing me, tempting me. Go on, keep doing it. Because when I get my hands on you, my lips on you, my hips on you, when I get my revenge on you, just know that it will not be served cold. But the tempting you exert on a brother will be repeated and increased tenfold until your body craves the release you refuse to relinquish upon me. And And then, you see, then I will continuously tempt you unto the brink of reason, teasing until your treasonous body betrays you, and until your convulsing cavern quakes with the repressed energy finally getting release. Upon eager fingers, seeking the elusive ball of nerves playing ecstasy in the key of G. See, I have plans for you, so you can keep tempting. Just know that when the roles in this game are finally reversed, you will finally, fully know the true definition of temptation. Welcome to another issue of the Wett Spot. Today I want to talk about business. I want to talk about Passionate Words Editing Services. I have put it as one of the sponsors, or the only sponsor so far, of the Wett Spot. It is my editing business. I am a lover of words, and I've loved words from the time I was young, the time I was even before 14. But I use 14 when people ask me, how long I've been writing, because that's when I wrote my first poem. But I was writing from before then. For as long as I could remember. I loved words. I loved English. I could remember having my glasses. I had my glasses broken at one point in time when I was young. I maybe 7 or 8 or something like that. And I got my dad to read the comic books, the comic strips for me on the TV, in the newspaper, because I could not read them myself. My glasses were being repaired. So I had always loved reading. I always loved words. And and as you know, and if you've followed me by any length of time, if you followed me on my PassionPoet journey or on my author journey, you would know the stories of how I started writing, where I wrote my first poem at 14 years old as a challenge to myself after being introduced to poetry in school. And for those who don't know this story, I was introduced to poetry in school and thought, hey, maybe I could do this. And I wrote a poem called The Student's Lament. And that poem was a humorous poem. I didn't know anything about forms or anything at that time, so it was a traditional AB poem. Every other word was rhyming, every other line ended in a rhyme and stuff, and with a traditional meter. And so as you would see in sometimes you see on TV when this guy is doing something and he doesn't know if it's good, so he slides up to somebody who he looks up to and says, hey, I've done this. A budding artist will say, hey, teacher, I drew this. Or in my case, it was me going to my English teacher and said, I wrote this. And he, basically I expected him to tell me, oh, great job, keep going. What Mr. Clark did, God rest his soul, was to actually tell me to read it to the class. And I did not really intend to read it to the class. That was not the plan. But being scared, being filled with trepidation, I stood up and I read the piece. The piece was called The Student's Lament. It was a humorous piece, and it was insulting everybody in the school, from the headmistress down to the janitor or custodian. And I had enjoyed writing it, and when I read it to the class, they're breaking down with laughter. Everybody laughed their head off, and all I could say is wow. All I said was wow. I could really do this. So then I got a little bolder. I wrote another piece. I can still remember the name of that second piece as well. It's had a longer title, Dist, The Lamentations of a Lonely Boy. There was a girl that I had liked in Caribbean countries. For the Caribbean people, for the Barbadian people listening to me, I was in class. I was in Form 3. I was in Form 3 or 4 at the St. Michael's School. For those who are in the States, I have no idea about your grade system, so I can't tell you what grade I was in. I would have been in had I been in the States. At the time, I would just say, remembering that I'm 14 years old, so somebody could DM me and tell me what grade that was. Anyway, there was this girl that I liked. And because I was shy, I wasn't sure how to approach her. One day I just decided that I would just be bold and just go up to her and tell her how I felt. I'm a 14-year-old who has I don't know anything about connecting to girls or anything, so at this point in time, so I just come straight out and tell her I like you and I'd like to get to know you better, right? I mean, that was it. The girl ran in the opposite direction. It was like if I somehow got a contagious disease that she didn't want to catch, and she ran. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't expect that. Like, literally ran, you know. I mean, not talk to me no more. I mean, like, she literally pick up her foot and run in the opposite direction. Now, I'm like, wow. So, I had no way to process this, and I decided I would write. But then, in true fashion, at that point in time, I was making it humorous again. So, although I started with this, I started talking about her, I decided to talk about fictitious girls on the other third forms. So it went something like, I like this girl in 3A1, but to her, I'm like grass on her lawn. To her, I'm just an insignificant thing. She won't accept my engagement ring. I like this girl in 3A2, but to her, I'm just the sole of her shoe. She looks at me severe. I think I remember. I'm trying to remember it. Obviously, this is years and years and years ago, and I can't remember all of it. I pulled her dress. I pulled her dress. She looked, and she said something about she looked at me severely, slapped, and swore. I can't remember that line. I like this girl in 3, but she didn't pay any attention to me. She's kind of cute and kind of small, but she doesn't notice me at all. That's the only one that was actually true and actually about a real person. I like this girl in 3 or 4, but to her, I'm like, I'm just a boy. Anyway, you get the point. I mean, the fact that I can actually remember all that after all these years is astounding. Anyhow, so basically speaking, I got from there and I started writing from that point on became a sense. Over the years, it was cathartic for me. And it was a way for me to process my feelings. And I'm coming up. So, let me get, this is just me. So I've always loved words. Yeah, I've always loved words. And like I said, I've always loved English. So I have come to the place where I cannot read. I don't like to read a badly formatted sentence. So I've literally thrown away books that had, I've thrown away this one book, this story. I'm an adult now, and somebody gave me this book as a gift. And I decided that I would read it, The person who wrote the book, I have said when telling this story in the past that in my opinion he has ejaculated commas all over his prose, because it was like one big long, that whole first paragraph was one big long running sentence with commas, and there's complex sentences, but I'm thinking, where's the full stop gonna be? And I'm like, literally, I threw that book in the trash without reading anything other than that first paragraph. I don't care how much of a self-help book it was supposed to be to help me to get. I don't care. I just could not read it. And I've come, and I remember over the years, I had been encouraged to start an editing business, to start an editing company. And to be honest, I was afraid for a very long time. A very, very long time I was afraid, trying to figure out how to do this. I know how to edit, but how do you charge? What do you do? How do you get clients? I didn't have a clue. And people like, I don't know if I wonder if I'm gonna get her to hear this, but I call her Lit Mom. I call her Lit Mom, Sandra Seeley. She is coming out with a book, her first book soon, and I'll get her onto the podcast to tell you about her book when it becomes available. But anyway, she was one that was encouraging me to start a business, and for years I felt I couldn't do it, and I didn't until one day I just decided. The PassionPoet was already in swing, and I had the books myself. I had released at least one book by the time I had started Passionate Words Editing Services. And I just decided I would do this, I just decided I would do this. And so, Sandra, as I said, she was encouraging me to do it. She has a group, a space for Caribbean writers on Facebook, and where writers of all over the Caribbean can connect, can interact, and share what they're doing with each other. And I from there I got one client who was doing a very cool book, in my opinion. It was already on Amazon, but she had given me. I don't remember how I got it. I think I read the. I think I posted something like, I am a upcoming editor or something, and she gave me a chance. And when I read her, she sent me an excerpt of the book, and honestly, I sat down, I redid that whole excerpt. It really it needed tightening up in many areas. And once I did that, she sent me her whole manuscript, even although the book was already on Amazon, and she was one of my first clients. My best client being Mariposa Butterfly Queen she is a poet, an author. She's a teacher by profession, but a motivational speaker. I want to get her on as well to talk about her journey. She and I have been friends. I was actually her mentor in her poetic journey. So I encouraged her, in terms of getting a book out, and she sent me her book. And all up to yesterday, we were at an event, and we were at an event together, and she mentioned how very particular I am as it relates to punctuation. She says that I embarrass her on social media, and I'm doing it again, Mariposa. I embarrass her on social media by always talking about her run-on sentences and her comma use, similar to the guy that the guy's book that I threw away. But she is extremely happy, I believe, with the work, because she constantly brings back other work for me to work on. She has 7 books and I have edited 6 of them, right? So I've done work on poetry books. I've done work on manuscripts, and I've done work. I tell people all the time that even if you want me to edit your shopping list, I could do that for you. Editing is just an extra extension of my love of words, because for me, it's almost like the words rearrange themselves in front of me, and I would almost say it's like a superpower. The words sort of rearrange themselves in front of me, or while I'm reading and something that isn't supposed to be there is there, it jumps out at me, it hits me, it stops my flow of reading. I'm enjoying a good story, and then a comma jolts me because it's not supposed to be there, or a punctuation mark is missing. Like, for instance, we're talking Facebook, or I would not even just say Facebook. The advent and the proliferation of mobile phones allows for autocorrect, and people use autocorrect as their editor, I guess, their first editor. But what I find is that autocorrect does not really give you, it doesn't really help matters sometimes. You know what I mean? It puts sometimes it changes, it depending on the type of autocorrect you have. Mine now, it used to highlight the word and tell me, this is wrong. Now it switches the word automatically to tell me, to what I think, so what it thinks I'm trying to say, and that's really annoying. But when you see people say, there's a lot of people who use boys and girls, for example. If you're saying boys and girls do this, and it's not a matter of possession. And here is a little grammar tip. You know that the apostrophe is used a lot. Is used for is used for possession. The boys' handbook, or the boys' handbook. It could be one boy, and you're saying that the handbook belongs to the boy. The boys' handbook will be BOY apostrophe S. Plural, it will be boys' handbook with BOYS apostrophe, and then the many boys' handbooks, or whatever, those that is what I'm saying. But I find that because of the autocorrect, anytime that you're going to have a plural, the autocorrect, or people are accustomed to using the autocorrect, so they think it is the right thing to do. And I find that people, wherever they go, they have this misplaced apostrophe. So you're just saying, I have 2 boys. I'm saying I have 2 boys, right? I have 2 sons. But I can see on social media, SON apostrophe S. I have 2 sons, SON apostrophe S, when I really mean SONS, no apostrophe. So it's that kind of thing that I pick up, because I am so, as Mariposa so bluntly puts it, I'm so anal about punctuation. I have I'll tell you the story that I use, I'll tell you a story that I use for how I knew that I should get into editing. Now, I probably might have mentioned, if you know me well enough, you've heard this story before, but here we go. I wrote this poem. I think it was black woman or beautiful black queen. I think it was years and years ago, or when I was 16 or so. And I wrote this poem, and I felt something was off with this poem, but I could not figure out what it was, right? Don't you hate when that happens, when you are writing something and you have no idea? Something is off, but you can't figure out what it is. But what I like to do with a poem like that, you just put it down. I like to say that it's marinating in its own juices, right? That image a metaphor, that image of the poem being something that's cooking, and you just let it marinate in its own juices and sucking up that flavor, right? Anyhow, so I let it sit. I left it in the back of my mind, and I think it was like 2 years later. Honestly, it was a long time, but 2 years later, something happened. I was laying in bed and I just jumped up, ran to the computer, turned the computer on, went to that poem. In the middle line, in the middle of that middle line, sort of like the center of the poem, there was a comma. And as I read that piece, that comma became a semicolon in my mind. Now, and so I just put the dot on top of the comma, made it a semicolon, read it for the final time, and the poem was perfect. Yes, the poem was perfect. I paused for dramatic effect there. But I'm saying the poem was perfect. It is that level of detail that I give as it relates to writing, as it relates to editing. Why was the poem perfect? I figured it out now that I am a spoken word artist. At the time then, I didn't necessarily, I just knew it was perfect, but I couldn't explain why. I am a spoken word artist. You've heard, and you will continue to hear my poems on this platform, on my web pages, on YouTube, or whatever the case is, or you will come and see me perform it live at some place, sometime in the world. So as a spoken word artist, rhythm and rhyme, but rhythm for sure is very important. If you are doing a performance piece, rhythm is very important for your poem. I hear the poem when I'm speaking, when I'm writing it, and the rhythm is in my head while I'm writing, and it was off. Now, a comma for me, I don't know if I can say for anybody else, or if it is, I don't know if it is if it can be proven, I guess, or if it's a rule, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But for me, a comma has a certain beat, a certain, like, you would pause for a certain amount of time when you're dealing with a comma. With a semicolon, I pause just a little bit more, just a fraction of a second more for a semicolon. So I'm just saying that when I did that poem, I needed that extra pause. So for me, it changed from a comma to a semicolon. Now, that level of detail, as I said, is the level that I give when it comes to editing. Right? I read your work, I read it, and what jumps out at me, I change immediately. And if sometimes I may have to let it marinate, like how it did with me. But of course, you pay me, so I'm not gonna wait 3 years to get to the work. But I'll let it sit for a while and see what my brain, what my inner editor says about the piece. It's not just copy editing. It's not just editing for it's just not editing, proofreading and correcting mistakes. But I will see if your word, if that paragraph can be tightened up, words taken out, unnecessary words. When I was doing some poetic workshops, we learned about the economy of words. And the economy of words, you only want to write the number of words that is necessary to get your point across. You don't want to be inundated with extra words that aren't necessary. So, like, I would take out things like the, you, depending on the type of poem that I'm trying to do. A lot of those unnecessary words come out. And I do the same thing when it comes to editing. So, and what about and in another instance, or in another podcast, I may mention about the use of self-editing, or why, although you self-edit, why you should have your own editor, why you should do should hire someone like me to actually edit your work. Well, I guess I can say it now, to be honest. I won't have to have a whole podcast on it. Basically speaking, you see what you want to see when it comes to your own work, right? You see what you want to see when it comes to your own work. You will, if it is a glaring mistake, you can catch it. But I'll give an example. I wrote a poem. It's in my first book, Erotic. I think it's devoured. But within that poem, like years later after the book was released, I was reading that poem again, and I happened to notice that I used the letter U instead of typing out the word Y-O-U. That skipped me. No matter how much that book has been edited, re-edited, it went through somebody else editing it, and nobody saw that, right? Because we live in an area, we live in an era where Facebook, online communication is very, very prevalent, and people say things in a way, right? They use, I'm trying to remember the word I'm trying to use, contractions. That's not the word I'm thinking about, but you know what I mean. And they say they use those things when they're typing quickly, so they would use abbreviations, that's the word I'm thinking about. They'll use abbreviations, they'll use contractions. YOU just contracted down to just the letter U. BRB, LOL, those are almost common, they're commonplace now, but they actually stand for laugh out loud, and BRB, be right back, stuff like that. And those are common knowledge, those are common use because of the internet. But my brain did not see that I had written that poem, because I wrote that poem, if I remember, on my phone. So as I wrote that poem on my phone, you're not thinking, and you put in the contractions or whatever. So even although I'd read that piece over and over and over before it got to the second editor, my brain saw what it's supposed to see, the U, but it was the wrong U. It was the contraction, it was the letter U, and not the expanded thing, not the whole word. So I'm just saying, that's just one of my experiences. I've had an experience where I had someone say to me, "Oh, they don't need editor; they edit themselves." But as soon as I read the work, I could tell that it was self-edited, because I was seeing things that, as soon as I saw it, I saw mistakes. And I'm just saying, having a second editor, having someone else look at your work, helps you, because they can see things that you don't see. And it's as simple as that. Right? I mean, people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and it's not even to say that if it goes through 2 or 3 editors that you're not going to find a couple things that slip through. But believe me, 1 or 2 things that slip through is way better than having clunky prose and having a paragraph that makes no sense. If I'm reading your work, I want to make sure that your story makes sense, that paragraph makes sense, that the story doesn't go off into a tangent and disappear, right? I'm not just looking to see if a comma is missing. I want to see if that story flows from beginning to end. I want to see if I'm going to enjoy this book when I'm done. By the time I'm done, I'm looking at it as a potential buyer. I want to read this book, and I want to feel this book. So I'm saying, so that's why I am a good editor. That's why I want to edit your book. So I started Passionate Words Editing Services 2015, I think it was. It was in 2015. And we've been going strong since then. I'm always up for new clients, always up for listening, working with you to get your vision out. It's not, I'm working with you. What I actually try to do sometimes, I've actually worked with one client who she is publisher of her own. She's a publisher, and I've helped her. I've done some done some work for her, where I was proofreading some of the work because I was being her second eyes, and she has a specific way of doing things, and different color codes and stuff. But for most other people, I use track changes, and I show you what your error is, and I also use comments so that I don't just go in there and just mash up your piece. I give you the option. I tell you, listen, this is what I think would do good for this is a different way of writing this paragraph. What do you think? Because I want to come alongside you, and I want you to be a part of this vision. I want this vision to be yours. Right? I don't want to come in and rewrite your book for you, because then I will feel as though it's my book, but it's not, right? So I just decided that I will come on here and just give a little précis of something else that I do under the EroticEmpire Passionate or PassionPoet umbrella, right? I always put Passionate Words is a sponsor of the Wett Spot, and if you want to sponsor the Wett Spot, get your name in that space, contact me. We will talk. I will mention your product for you. I will mention your name, and you will get some a little bit of push as my podcast grows. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble about my business. I am confident that listening to this, somebody out there will want to have a conversation concerning passionate words, concerning I want to get my book out there. I want to get my book out there. How do I move from an idea to having a book on Amazon or having a book in my hand? And that's what I want to do for you. That's what I want to do. I can send you my resume. We can talk. But contact me. DM me on passionate.words.editing. That's the IG. You can go and like me on IG at passionate.words.editing. You can DM me there. You can message me. You can message me on the other you can message me on my other account as well. If you the Bajan Poet account, the Bajan Passion Poet account that I have, that is really for my own artistic work. That is for me to push my books. That is for me to push my poetry. But if you are already following me there, send me a message there. You can email me at passionpoetbds@gmail.com. passionpoetbds@gmail.com. Right? So you can do that, or even go to passionpoet.com and go to the contact me. And although that website is focused on my creative work and doesn't have anything specifically about passionate words on it yet, you can always DM, you can always send your contact information and tell me that you have, you listen to the podcast and want some information. Let us link, let us network. I want to do right by your book. My tagline is words are a writer's currency. Let us help you spend them wisely. Words are a writer's currency. Let us help you spend them wisely. That is the tagline. That is the motto of Passionate Words Editing Services. I want to help you to spend your collateral, your words wisely, so that you get your words out there, so that people are excited by hearing you and hearing your words. I want what you want. So let us network. Message me, contact me, leave a voice note here on the Wett Spot podcast. Spread the word to the others that you may hear. This is business. This is another aspect of who I am as a creative entrepreneur. This is another way that you can be, that Passion Poet can impact your life. So, thank you again for letting me press along about my business. Thank you again for letting me share my passion about writing, about words, about people. And let us work together to get your work out there. Okay, so thank you again. This is Passion Poet. This has been the Wett Spot. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining me on the Wett Spot. My name is Passion Poet. You can find me on Instagram at Bajan Passion Poet. BAJANPASSIONPOET. Bajan Passion Poet. Or on my website at passionpoet.com. I hope to see you next time.